Hello, and a very warm welcome back to VitaPrime Health. It is such a pleasure to be with you again. As many of you know, my work has always been rooted in the belief that health is not just the absence of disease, but the presence of vitality, a deep sense of well-being that resonates through our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. Today, I want to talk about a subject that is often misunderstood, yet it is one of the most powerful levers we have for our health, our performance, and our overall sense of well-being. We're going to be talking about cortisol, the hormone you've likely heard about in relation to stress, but which plays a far more nuanced and vital role in our lives. In particular, we'll explore how to control your cortisol levels to avoid burnout, and for those who are already feeling its weight, how to begin the journey of overcoming it. It is truly difficult for me to overemphasize just how important cortisol is to our daily functioning. As you will soon discover, its impact on our mood, our sleep, our immune system, and our long-term health is immense. And our ability to regulate its rhythms throughout the day and night is, I believe, one of the most powerful tools we have for our well-being. Before we begin, I want to make a special request of you today. Please, stay with me for our entire time together. We will start with a general overview, but the most important and truly life-changing information, the crucial steps for a path forward in your own life, will be revealed as we go. The actionable insights and a detailed guide on how to approach this trend will be found in the latter half of our episode, and I promise you, they are well worth the wait. I want this to be a conversation. The concept of stress and burnout is something so many of us have been curious about, but perhaps a little intimidated by. Have you ever felt that overwhelming sense of being wired and tired? Or have you noticed your mornings are filled with anxiety and your nights with sleeplessness? I would love to hear your thoughts, your curiosities, and your concerns in the comments below. Your questions help guide our community and can provide valuable insights for others who are listening. The misunderstood rhythm of cortisol. Let's begin by unpacking the common belief about cortisol. Most of us have heard of cortisol, and we usually associate it with stress. This is understandable, as cortisol is indeed a hormone released by our adrenal glands in response to stress. But to think of it only as a stress hormone is to miss its greater purpose and its incredible power for good. The most important thing to understand is that cortisol is not inherently bad. It is, in fact, a hormone that is essential for life itself. The key is its timing and its level. The most critical concept to remember from our discussion today is your cortisol rhythm, or your 24-hour circadian rhythm in cortisol. If you remember nothing else, please remember this. You want your cortisol to be high early in the day, shortly after waking, and you want your cortisol to be low in the hours right before and in the first hours of sleep. If we can get this rhythm correct, it can reinforce every other aspect of our health, from our sleep and our energy to our performance and our sense of calm. When we get this right, everything else in our health journey becomes so much easier. Cortisol's true role is not simply to respond to stress. It is a hormone that causes the deployment of energy into the body, directing that energy to the tissues that need it most, particularly our brain, to deal with all sorts of things that demand our focus and our vitality. It does this by causing the release of glucose, or blood sugar, into the bloodstream from our liver and muscles. So, when you need energy to get out of bed in the morning, to deal with a work task, to drive your children to school, or to handle a difficult conversation, cortisol needs to be released. This is a very different way of thinking about cortisol than the common narrative, which often focuses solely on elevated cortisol as a bad thing. We need cortisol to get glucose into the bloodstream to power our day. The problem arises when cortisol is elevated at the wrong times, particularly in the evening, or when it is consistently high due to chronic stress. The historical and clinical context of stress. The human stress response is a remarkable evolutionary tool. In our ancestral past, a sudden stressor, a threat from a predator, for instance, would trigger a rapid release of adrenaline and a slightly slower but more sustained release of cortisol. Adrenaline would give us the immediate energy to fight or flee, while cortisol would ensure that we had a steady supply of blood sugar to maintain our energy levels after the initial adrenaline spike. This response was designed to be short-lived. The problem in the modern world is that our stressors are rarely short-lived. We don't have to flee from predators, but we do have to contend with demanding jobs, financial worries, relationship conflicts, and the constant digital demands on our attention. Our bodies react to a stressful email or a difficult conversation with our partners in the same way they would a tiger, by releasing cortisol. When this happens day in and day out, our cortisol levels remain chronically elevated. This is where the long-term, damaging effects begin. Clinically, this chronic high cortisol state can lead to conditions like Cushing's syndrome in its most extreme form. A more common, but still serious result is what we refer to as burnout, a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. The pattern of burnout is often described as being wired and tired, where you have no energy during the day but can't seem to relax or sleep at night. You might feel a profound sense of exhaustion, but your body is still in a state of high alert with elevated cortisol levels disrupting your sleep, your mood, and your ability to recover. In my research, I've also come across cases of Addison's disease, where cortisol production is too low, which can also lead to similar feelings of fatigue and a lack of vitality, illustrating the importance of balance. Diverse journeys, patient anecdotes. In my professional practice, I have seen the face of burnout in many forms. These are not always the people you would expect. I think of a woman I'll call Maria, a 67-year-old retired school principal. Maria was a pillar of her community, always busy with volunteer work, family gatherings, and a lively social life. On paper, her life was full and happy. Yet she came to me with complaints of persistent fatigue, unexplained weight gain, and a feeling of dread that would often start in the morning. She felt she was losing her sparkle. We worked on her cortisol rhythm. We focused on getting her bright morning light, creating a consistent sleep schedule, and integrating a gentle, mindful movement practice into her day. What was most powerful for Maria was the simple act of setting aside 15 minutes each morning to sit in her garden and watch the sunrise without her phone before her day began. She started to notice that her morning anxiety, which was a hallmark of her dysregulated cortisol, began to subside. She said it was like reclaiming her mornings, and in doing so, she started to reclaim her vitality. Then there was a gentleman I'll call Edward, a 75-year-old widower who had recently moved to be closer to his children. He was feeling isolated and had fallen into a routine of watching television late into the night. His sleep was fragmented, his energy was low, and he felt a general sense of malaise. He wasn't sad, but he wasn't happy. He was simply adrift. In our work, we focused on using light as a tool. We talked about turning off all screens, including the television, at least an hour before bed, and using a red light bulb in his reading lamp. We also discussed the importance of getting a solid dose of natural sunlight in the morning. Edward's biggest breakthrough came when he started taking a morning walk to the local coffee shop, which not only exposed him to the morning light, but also gave him a social connection, even if it was just a brief chat with the barista. He started to feel a sense of purpose again, a return to his old self. He said, "I thought my lack of energy was just old age. I never realized it was my body's internal clock that was just out of sync." I must ask you again, have these stories brought to mind your own experiences or those of someone you love? What wisdom do you have to share with this community? Please, feel free to add your voice below. Lifestyle integrations and daily practices to control cortisol. Now for the crucial part of our discussion, the practical tools you can use to correct your cortisol rhythm and overcome burnout. Remember, you don't need a medical degree to do this. You simply need awareness and intention. Harness the power of morning light. This is perhaps the most powerful and accessible tool you have. As soon as you wake up in the morning, expose yourself to bright light. The best source is natural sunlight. Take a walk outside, sit by a window, or even just stand on your porch for 10 to 15 minutes. This exposure to bright light sends a powerful signal to your brain to halt melatonin production and release cortisol, which is exactly what you want. This sets your circadian clock for the entire day. Time your caffeine intake. If you're a habitual caffeine user, you might find that delaying your first cup of coffee or tea by 60 to 90 minutes can make a world of difference. Caffeine, for a habitual user, doesn't significantly boost your cortisol levels, but it can extend its life in your system. By delaying it, you allow your natural morning cortisol peak to occur on its own, and the caffeine then works to sustain that energy without a crash later in the day. The power of physical activity. Movement is a powerful tool. When we exercise, our bodies release cortisol, which helps mobilize the glucose we need for energy. This is a good thing, as it's a short, healthy spike. However, if you are working out late in the evening under bright lights, you can disrupt your sleep by elevating your cortisol levels too close to bedtime. For most people, exercising in the morning or early afternoon is a wonderful way to boost your cortisol rhythm and feel more energized. A 2021 study in the journal Sleep Medicine found that regular morning exercise was significantly correlated with improved sleep quality and reduced cortisol levels at night. Dietary and supplemental support. Your diet plays a huge role in regulating your cortisol. A diet rich in whole foods, healthy fats, and a balance of protein and complex carbohydrates can help keep your blood sugar stable, preventing the dips that trigger a cortisol spike. Some supplements have also shown promise in helping to modulate cortisol. Things like ashwagandha and apigenin have decent studies in humans to support their use for reducing cortisol, which can be particularly helpful for those struggling with evening anxiety or sleeplessness. Magnesium threonate is another excellent supplement that has been shown to support sleep and nervous system health. Of course, always consult with your doctor before starting any new supplements. Manage your light exposure at night. Just as morning light is your friend, bright light at night can be your enemy. The light from our phones, tablets, and televisions sends a signal to our brains that it's still daytime, suppressing melatonin and keeping cortisol slightly elevated. Try to dim the lights in your home in the evening. Use a red light bulb in your reading lamp if you're reading a book, and put all screens away at least 60 to 90 minutes before you plan to sleep. This simple act can make a profound difference in the quality of your sleep. The most important takeaway here is to start with the protocol that addresses your biggest pain point. If you're struggling with morning fatigue, focus on that morning light and movement. If you're struggling to sleep at night, focus on evening light management and relaxation techniques. By making one small, consistent change, you can begin to make a profound shift in your overall health. Unpacking the myths, separating fact from fiction. The topic of cortisol and burnout has led to several myths that can be confusing. Let's bring these out into the light and replace them with compassionate, evidence-based truth. Myth: cortisol is always bad for you. Truth: as we've discussed, this is a dangerous oversimplification. Cortisol is essential for life itself. It helps us wake up in the morning, gives us the energy to face our day, and even helps our immune system function properly. The problem is not cortisol itself, but a dysregulated rhythm, too high at night, too low in the morning, or a consistently elevated level due to chronic stress. Myth: you can fix your cortisol with a pill. Truth: while certain supplements like ashwagandha can be helpful in modulating cortisol, they are not a cure-all. The true fix comes from addressing the foundational pillars of health: light exposure, sleep, movement, and nutrition. Supplements are just a tool to support these healthy behaviors. There is no magic bullet. Myth: burnout is just a sign of weakness. Truth: burnout is a real physiological and psychological state, and it is a sign that your nervous system is in a state of chronic high alert, unable to find its way back to a state of rest and repair. It is a sign of a dysregulated cortisol rhythm and is not a character flaw. Myth: all stress is bad for you. Truth: this is also not true. Short, acute stressors, such as an intense workout or a cold shower, can actually be beneficial. These are what we call hormetic stressors. They challenge our bodies in a healthy way, making us more resilient in the long run. The problem lies with chronic, unmanaged stress that keeps our cortisol levels constantly elevated. A 2018 study in cell metabolism highlighted the benefits of acute, short-term stressors in boosting cellular health and longevity. Myth: you need to be a morning person to have a healthy cortisol rhythm. Truth: while morning light exposure is key, you don't have to force yourself into a routine that feels unnatural. The goal is simply to get that bright light exposure shortly after you wake, regardless of when that is. The principles are the same for night owls and early birds. It is just a matter of timing your light exposure to match your own natural wake-up time. A detailed FAQ for our VitaPrime community. Question: can therapy help with burnout? Absolutely. Burnout is a complex issue that has both physiological and psychological roots. Therapy can be an incredibly powerful tool because it can help you identify the underlying stressors in your life, develop effective coping mechanisms, and provide emotional support as you navigate the journey of recovery. A good therapist can give you useful insights that help you improve your work life, your relationships, and your relationship with yourself. The goal is to get to the root of the stress, not just to manage the symptoms. Question: I'm feeling wired and tired. What is the most important thing I can do to start? The wired and tired pattern is a classic sign of a dysregulated cortisol rhythm, low energy in the morning, and a feeling of being on edge or unable to sleep at night. The most important first step is to focus on your light exposure, both in the morning and in the evening. Get bright light as soon as you wake to boost your morning cortisol and energy. Then, in the evening, dim the lights, put away all screens, and use red or amber light to signal to your body that it's time to wind down and produce melatonin. This 1-2 punch can have a dramatic effect on resetting your rhythm. Question: what is the connection between cortisol and blood sugar? Cortisol's primary role is to ensure your body has a steady supply of energy. It does this by stimulating the release of glucose, or blood sugar, from your liver and muscles into the bloodstream. This is why chronic, elevated cortisol levels can lead to insulin resistance and an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. When your body is constantly in a state of high alert, it is also in a state of constantly elevated blood sugar, which can have long-term negative effects on your metabolic health. This is yet another reason why managing your stress and your cortisol rhythm is so crucial for long-term health. Question: can too much exercise be a problem? While exercise is a powerful tool, it is possible to have too much of a good thing. Overtraining can be a significant stressor on the body, leading to chronically elevated cortisol levels, particularly if you are not getting enough rest and recovery. This is often seen in individuals who feel the need to push themselves constantly, leading to a state of exhaustion that can resemble burnout. Listening to your body, taking rest days, and incorporating gentle, restorative practices like stretching or walking can be just as important as the more intense workouts. Question: what is the relationship between cortisol and adrenaline? Cortisol and adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, are both released by the adrenal glands in response to stress. However, they work on different timescales. Adrenaline is released very quickly, creating that immediate jolt of energy and focus you feel in a stressful situation. Cortisol, on the other hand, is made and then released on a slightly slower timescale. Its purpose is to provide a sustained source of energy by releasing glucose into the bloodstream, ensuring you have the fuel to deal with the stressor long after the initial adrenaline rush has subsided. They work together as part of the body's comprehensive stress response system. Question: does a change in seasons affect cortisol? Yes, absolutely. The amount of light we are exposed to has a direct and powerful impact on our cortisol rhythm, and the seasons directly influence the amount of light we receive. This is particularly true for those of us living at higher latitudes, closer to the poles. In the shorter, darker days of winter, it can be more challenging to get that crucial dose of bright morning light, which can contribute to feelings of fatigue and low energy. This is why tools like a light therapy lamp can be so beneficial in the winter months. They simulate bright, natural light to help keep your circadian rhythm in sync. Question: can I have morning anxiety, and how is it related to cortisol? Yes, morning anxiety is a very common symptom of a dysregulated cortisol rhythm. The natural cortisol spike we want in the morning is designed to give us energy and focus. However, If our nervous system is in a state of chronic high alert, that morning spike can be experienced as a feeling of anxiety or dread. This is a sign that your body is having trouble differentiating between a healthy morning wake-up signal and a genuine threat. By working to correct your cortisol rhythm and calming your nervous system with tools like meditation and mindful breathing, you can often significantly reduce or even eliminate morning anxiety. As we draw our conversation to a close today, my dear friends, I hope this discussion has brought a sense of curiosity and a new sense of possibility. The world of wellness is expanding in such exciting ways, and we are no longer limited to a single approach. Remember, whether you choose to make a small change to your morning routine or to embark on a more significant journey, the path to health begins with intention. It starts with a commitment to yourself, a willingness to listen to your body, and the courage to make small, proactive changes. This journey of wellness, of living fully and vibrantly in our senior years, is one we embark on together. If today's discussion resonated with you, if it offered a fresh perspective or inspired you to make a gentle change, I would be so honored if you would join our ever-growing Vita Prime Health family. Please, subscribe to our channel right now. It's a simple act that ensures you'll receive all our future episodes, each designed to empower you with evidence-based insights and heartfelt support for your well-being. And if you know someone, a cherished family member, a dear friend, or perhaps a valued neighbor, who might also find comfort, inspiration, or valuable insights here, I would be deeply grateful if you would share this episode with them. Your sharing helps us extend our embrace, fostering a larger community dedicated to thriving at every age. Let's continue to support each other on this beautiful path. Thank you always for your precious time, your trust, and your unwavering commitment to your own health journey. Until we meet again, take exquisite care of yourselves and keep cultivating that wonderful vitality.